Today, we're talking about one of the funniest and most creative scenes from the TV show Friends, the iconic Dollhouse scene with Monica and Phoebe. What makes this moment so special is that it starts like a serious family conversation, but slowly turns into complete comedy chaos. And honestly, that's exactly why the scene is still loved by fans even years later. The scene begins when Ross tells Monica that their Aunt Sylvia has passed away. Normally, a scene about someone dying would feel emotional or sad, but this is Friends, so the writers instantly flip the tone into dark comedy. The family openly admits that Aunt Sylvia wasn't exactly a sweet person. She was rude, cranky, and difficult to deal with. Right away, the show tells the audience that this isn't going to be a dramatic, emotional moment. It's going to be funny in the most awkward way possible. But the real story begins when Monica finds out she inherited the childhood dollhouse she always loved. Suddenly, Monica's inner child comes alive. You can see how excited she is because this dollhouse represents something special from her childhood, something she always admired but was never really allowed to play with. And honestly, that part feels very relatable. Everyone has something from childhood that still feels magical years later. Then Phoebe enters the scene, and everything changes. The second Phoebe sees the dollhouse, she treats it exactly how a child would, as a place for imagination and fun. But Monica sees it completely differently. Monica wants the dollhouse to stay perfect, elegant, and Victorian. She wants everything to match. Phoebe, on the other hand, brings absolute chaos. She adds a giant dog that can apparently pee on the roof, a ghost living in the attic, and even creates a backstory about the house being built on radioactive waste and an ancient burial ground. And Monica's reactions throughout the entire scene are hilarious because you can literally see her losing control little by little. That's what makes their chemistry so entertaining. Monica is obsessed with perfection, order, and rules. Phoebe lives entirely in creativity and randomness. When those two personalities collide, the comedy feels natural instead of forced. One of the funniest moments is when Monica finally snaps and says, "No dinosaurs, no ghosts, no giant dogs." She's trying so hard to protect the look of the dollhouse, while Phoebe just wants to make it exciting and fun. And Phoebe's response is honestly iconic. She says, "Come, dinosaur, we're not welcome in the house of no imagination." That line is funny, but it also secretly says a lot about both characters. Monica represents structure and control, while Phoebe represents creativity and freedom. In a weird way, the scene almost feels like a battle between adulthood and childhood imagination. Then, Phoebe creates her own version of the dollhouse, with slides instead of stairs, candy furniture, and the famous aroma room. At that point, even the audience starts loving Phoebe's version more because it actually feels alive and fun. And that's where the writing in Friends becomes genius. The comedy doesn't come from random jokes, it comes from how perfectly the writers understand the characters. Phoebe's weird imagination works because it feels true to her personality. Monica's frustration works because it's exactly how Monica would react. That's why the scene still feels natural even today. And then comes the ending. Just when things couldn't get crazier, the dollhouse catches on fire. Monica completely panics, while Phoebe calmly asks if everyone inside made it out safely, talking about dolls and puppets like they're real people. The contrast is so ridiculous that it becomes even funnier. And when they discover the melted, faster puppets under the wreckage, the scene ends on the perfect, chaotic comedy note. Overall, this scene is much more than just a funny dollhouse moment. It perfectly shows why Monica and Phoebe are such a great duo. One character wants everything controlled and perfect. The other turns everything into imagination and chaos. And honestly, that balance is one of the biggest reasons why Friends became such an iconic sitcom in the first place. Even today, scenes like this still go viral because the humor feels real, character-driven, and timeless.